News Corp's Europe correspondent joins us. Stephen, good to see you. Haven't seen you since that election result, and stunning it was. Now Boris Johnson is meeting with, well, we can't call him a former royal. He's not a former prince. He's just not a Royal Highness.
He's the Harry
anymore.
Formerly known as Prince Laura. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Well, now, The Guardian, bless them, I love their work, but they missed the lead in that story. There's another picture there, which you might be able to show your viewers later, where Boris Johnson is actually waving his arms like he's either a scarecrow or an aeroplane.
Yeah, that's a great shot, that.
Now, I'm going to pull a caption competition on that. I don't know. There's going to be some good memes from that.
Do you know what they were talking about, Stephen?
No, no one does, because Harry won't tell us anymore.
Well, have a guess.
Just said,
what do you reckon it was?
I reckon it would be something. My guess is that he was talking about which plane he might fly onto Canada and never come back on.
Yeah.
A question: does he still? Do the royals fly in private planes, obviously, or do they fly commercial? And does that all change for Harry now? Once he goes back to Canada, will he be on the latest British Airways flight to Vancouver?
Well, see, that's the thing. Meghan did fly British Airways over to Vancouver, so they do that quite often in first class, and they're the last to get on.
Sure.
Sometimes when they're being very humble, or they go and fly on Flybe, which is one of the discount regional airlines. Kate and William did that with their family the other week, but as they were trying to become nice and men and women of the people, Flybe actually had to send Common, that's correct. They had to send an empty plane to go and pick them up because they wanted to have the Flybe insignia on the side of the plane. So they were trying to reduce their carbon footprint, but it didn't quite work. So I would imagine that Harry, he could be on a flight as early as tonight. That's the next move in this story, because if this morning it was said to be one of his last royal engagements, there is another event which is happening this evening at Buckingham Palace as we speak. Kate and William are hosting African leaders at Buckingham Palace in one of their first solo events. So I think he probably will fly just among the people, but the pointy end of those planes is pretty nice every time I walk past them.
Every time. Yeah. You and me both. Stephen, how do you see this going? Now that he's not a working royal, as the Queen put it, anymore, he's lost the HRH title and she's lost her HRH title. How do you see it going? How do you see them performing and earning in the private sector now that they aren't attached to that? Is there a potential for that backfiring, even though they're very popular ex-royals? Is there a potential for that to backfire? And if so, can he be brought back into the fold?
Well, Peter, this is a souffle, and they've opened the oven about 3 minutes before it was ready to be done, because this has been quite rushed, despite the fact that they've been discussing this for months, as we heard from the Queen the other day in her statement. It's really unclear as to how you can be a royal and a commercial person as well, because their Instagram page still says Sussex Royal. It doesn't say Sussex, East London. It says Sussex Royal. So they're still trading on that name. And even if they didn't use it, everyone is still going to know him as Harry. And I will bet you $1 million that they're still calling him Prince Harry in America, and just ignore all the protocol to go with that.
But he is still a prince, right? Because he was born a prince.
He's born a prince. You can't take that away from him. But he cannot use that title. So he's now only known as Harry,
right?
The Duke of Sussex, rather.
Right, commercially, yeah, that makes sense.
Commercially. So, and the Queen's actually put a timeline on this. She said, you've got 12 months. So that 12-month review wasn't just to see if Harry and Meghan were happy. That was really for the Queen to make sure that if they do this commercial deals and commercial partnerships, that they don't embarrass the royal family. And, I mean, Fergie, anybody, Weight Watchers, it's happened before.
That's right.
Yeah, well, she had to be the Duchess of Kent, was she? No.
Duchess of York.
Duchess of York, sorry.
She was Andrew's wife, and they're still quite close. Probably one of his only supporters at the moment. But to your point, though, Peter, I think there is a chance he might come back to the fold, and there is also a chance that Harry gets to Canada and, like Meghan in Windsor, goes, gee, this isn't that much fun. None of my friends are here. How do I get along with this?
That's an interesting point, though, isn't it? I mean, as soon as they're outside the fold, isn't it part of their appeal lost? I mean, you mentioned Fergie there, and she was hocking off access to Andrew for X amount of dollars to keep kind of money coming in. And that's just one example. Usually when people leave the royal family, they end up wanting to get back in again.
It is. It's not a great opportunity. I mean, they might do it well for 5 years or 10 years or even 15 years. But I still remember Diana's death. I was at the football in Melbourne in 1997, and they actually announced it at 3/4 time over the loudspeaker.
Wow.
Now, I've got that history, but the millennials now may not, and in 10 years' time they may not. And Harry and Meghan have to live an expensive life because of the security and the circles they keep. They can't just go down to Aldi on a Thursday to get the discounts.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I don't know if they'll have it. Will they have enough
Good
money down the
discounts
track?
too. That's true.
They are, especially snow days.
Just quickly, on just a question about the media. I was a bit surprised to learn. I know there are rules around how you can report on the royals in the UK, but it doesn't seem to stop some of the tabloid media making up some pretty sensational headlines. Harry has obviously expressed his frustration with how he's been treated in the press, how his wife has been treated in the press, but it could be the case of jumping, from one really difficult media market into another. There's some suggestions that they will no longer be protected if they move to Canada, but I guess they're taking the risk. Well, the UK media hasn't really worked for them so far, so the alternative can't be much worse.
Well, they probably haven't read this National Enquirer at the supermarkets in America, because that would probably make some of the editors at The Sun blush. And to your point about the claims that the tabloid media have made up stories, well, The Sun last week was the only paper to actually break the fact that they were going to Canada, and they did that a day before they actually announced it. So the problem with Harry's arguments there is that he actually stood up. He confirmed most of the stories about the feud he had with William, which was bubbling away for a while, and Meghan confirmed her, or appeared to confirm her, problems with the royal family in an ITV interview when they were in Africa last year. So if it was all made up, which parts were made up? But your argument there, Laura, is pertinent, because they're going to have less people to be on their side. And right now is all the royal reporters actually know Harry. They've been following it for 20 years, and they'll get a very, very stern call from the palace if there's a word wrong in the story. And they also have their own credibility and their respect that they want to uphold. So there's a bit of a deal. There was an accord that has gone on with the press and probably been tested over the years. But there are times when, if there's a phone call to an editor to say, well, that's enough, it actually happens. So I think there's going to be nobody keeping an eye on them in Canada. They'll have photographers everywhere. We've already seen
paparazzi
two
following
images
them for sure.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Imagine those pictures are worth more now.
Yeah, that's right.
So the thing is, they've tried to have the chateau with the gatto, have their cake and eat it too.
You've got it this morning. I'll tell you what. Look, Stephen, we have to leave it there. Good to see all the scaffoldings come down around Big Ben, by the way.
Yeah. Beautiful, nice and calm too. The waters of the Thames. Stephen Drill, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.